everyone, it's Nick from Nick's Crossing. Welcome to the layout room for the first layout update of the new platform. I can't wait to show you guys. There's so much to see. Got a crazy new track plan. Thanks to one of my friends and also fellow YouTubers, Matt PG, for helping me map out the layout, add things where they could be added. It was so much fun, but we'll get into that. On top of the layout tour, you guys will get a ride behind the 2026, which is to my right. You guys will see her soon. And I got the camera set up so you guys will take a ride on the brand new track layout. So really the first ride on this layout. So here we go, everyone, all aboard. First, I wanted to give you guys some of the backstory of my past two O-gauge layouts. So before I moved here, my parents had a 4x12, very traditional. The thing was built like a workbench. You could probably walk on it. It was insane, but also it was very, very classic toy train. You know, two inner loops, models everywhere. You did a little bit of a town. You put your accessories off your main line. We also took out our switches because we wanted to run pre-war stuff without them jumping off the switches, things like that. And then we get to my last layout that was up here, the 4x12 with the yard extension. That was pretty much an adopted track plan from the old layout at my parents'. Took a lot of inspiration from that layout, you know, a lot of childhood memories playing with the trains that we did have. All right, guys, and then we get to this layout, and I actually set two common goals for myself for this layout. The first goal was to actually have a track plan that would incorporate lots of turns, turnouts, sidings, a yard, and just add in a bunch of cool different features to this layout, such as the turnaround loop, and also 8 switches in total. A couple mainline switches. I believe I have 3 mainline switches that can actually turn the train around, and then just other sidings all over the place. And I wanted to make the train appear as if it is going somewhere, not so much a geometric shape like a rectangle or a square, like a traditional toy train layout. I wanted to add lots of curves to this layout. I believe I only have 2 pieces of 10-inch straights in the back, one little adapter here, and that's it. Everything else is all swooping turns, and the layout is kind of like in the shape of a kidney bean, but you guys will see. It's a lot of fun. So the goal number 2 was actually to incorporate scenery that I've come across while filming out in the wild for you guys, you know, in the field, as they would say, and incorporate elements to the layout that I've personally seen. So I've never done that before. It's kind of like a personal goal to actually try to model some stuff, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to showing you guys the track plan. All right, guys, so here is the overview of the entire layout as of right now. And the track goes all the way in back, right behind the freight shed. And we move south. Lots of turns in here, like I said. And then we come up to the yard. Pretty basic, right? And that's pretty much it, track plan wise. So we're gonna start from south to north, if that makes any sense. We're gonna go over here. And here is the south yard with the bubble tower that is wired up. She's all heated up. Check her out. There she goes. It's got a little strobe at the top. Love that thing. So here is the south yard that can store cars in. I have an engine shed. It's also lighted back there. That was on the old platform. Got my old Marks beacon set up back there, or spotlight. And got lots of cars just waiting here. This is actually our 2026 that's going to pull our action camera along. And I forgot to mention size switches for the yard. So this is an 031 right here. Then we go up to another 031 switch right here. And then an 042 switch under the gondola. I did that to actually give space for my engine shed. Also wanted to give some room in here for some nice scenery pieces. Have my switch tower all wired up, ready to roll. Looks like the cat was up here, it's tilted, so I'll do that. Fix the switch tower. Then we move northbound, and we come up on the first mainline switch, 054 switch, and I have to wire these all up. So once these are all wired up, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this loop in here. Goes out and follows north till it comes back. There's another mainline switch right in the center of the screen right there. And it comes down to the Grand Station. This is the Midtown Station, as I'm going to call it right now. Also got these lights at the last train show I went to, the Great Scale Train Show. And these are actually old Marx lamps. There is the freight shed that's hooked up to another little siding there. A lot of fun with that. If we follow down here, the station has an 031 siding as well. That takes you to the passenger siding right there. So we come down the main line right here, another 054. And here's another 054 switch. And this goes on this spur that actually comes up to my icing station. It's not wired up yet, but it is mounted in place. But it does work. And I thought this was a great spot right in here to film Nick's reviews and things like that. So I could bring the cars and engine up nice and close, get a great view with the tripod, go from there. So if you go further back, you guys can see that there's the freight shed, and that actually takes you to this bump out on the layout that I had to build. It's a little 8-inch extension to help out the only 4-foot wide section. And this section in here is actually going to be a rock cut to kind of remind me of what I filmed up in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. And on top of the rock cut, I'm going to put my Lionel beacon. Love that. It needs a new bulb. You guys can see that one's all blacked out. Ran too much power through her. Whoops. So before we get to running the beautiful 2026 with you guys riding behind in the gondola, I wanted to show you guys some of the products that I use personally and some of the tips and tricks while putting this track plan together. So first, today I bought more of these terminal pieces, all kinds of goodies in here. If you check that out, it's a 520 piece set. And this is actually a restock of some of my other items. Like I have buckets and buckets of terminals. Like these are old food trays I use to hold on to my parts. And also I bought a lot of these splicing, quick splicing. It says stripping quick splice set. These are very cheap. It's like $5. You get 50 of them. And I actually bought 2 of them so I could wire up 50 items. And that may sound like a lot, but when you get into wiring lights and even cars, when I upgrade rail cars and stuff with LEDs, I'd rather use these than soldering because these aren't as permanent. You can actually just chop them out or open them up, take the wires out. So yeah, I got all that stuff. And surprisingly, when wiring up the track, because I used, I believe it was 14 gauge or 16 gauge wire, when I took all 4 areas of the layout and tried to splice them together, the 10 gauge terminals actually worked out very well to put in my terminal block under the platform to the TPC unit. The third item I actually purchased was this conduit piping here for wire, and that's going to be used when I wire up all my switches, all 8 switches that you guys saw, and you get this giant, you know, spaghetti mess of wire for the switches. This is really going to help organize it from my table to the platform underneath, and I can, you know, branch it off from wherever it needs to go under the platform. So a couple of tips and tricks that I used while wiring up my track. When you use these splices, you can actually run your power in parallel, so all of your items are receiving, you know, the same amount of power, not in series, and then bulbs get dimmer and all that stuff. Run them in parallel. So what I do is actually I start from my bench and run 2 wires for the whole length of the table, and wherever I need power, I basically splice in. It's a lot safer than soldering under a table. It's a lot cleaner, and it just looks really nice under the platform. Everything's well organized, and with these splices, it really makes it fast to wire up your accessories. Second off, you want to have a good power supply for your accessories. Right now I'm just using, if it can even stretch this far, I'm using one of these Lionel. It's almost like a fixed voltage transformer, but it has a dial on it, and it's very hot, so it's probably pulling a little too much amperage for it, because I only have a few items hooked up right now. I also dialed that in at 14 volts. That's the other tip of this video. If you run your lamps and items around 14 volts, it's going to help prolong the bulbs. It's also going to prevent, lights from burning out, such as in this water tower. That light actually burned out. But yeah, just a couple wiring tips here and there. Let's get to running this beautiful locomotive, so all aboard. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this layout review. Number one, I'm sure you guys are going to see a lot of this new layout, and hopefully you guys had a great time riding around behind 2026. She's a little cranky. It's the later version, I guess you could call it. Newer, but later version. She runs all right, but, these post-4 engines can be kind of cranky sometimes, but they are workhorses. They're meant to work. And that beautiful tender you guys heard, making all those beautiful sounds, is actually a Steam Sounds tender from, I believe, the 2000s New York Central System Steam Sounds tender, which I can actually show you guys right here. These are great. If you guys ever find any of these tenders with the Rail Sounds, Steam Sounds, definitely pick them up. They sound so cool, and they look great behind post-4 engines, and they're just a lot of fun. The sound effects, the crew talk, all that stuff. If you guys had a great time today, make sure you always consider subscribing to the channel. Giving the video a like and a comment really helps out the channel as well. Until next time, everyone, happy railroading. See you next time.